This is war. War and its masses. War and its men. War and its machines. Together they form the big picture.
People of Western Europe, a landing was made this morning on the coast of France by troops of the Allied Expeditionary Force. The hour of your liberation is approaching.
D-Day was a crusade. It was a crusade because Pearl Harbor had been such a day of wrath, such a day of concern, such a day of infamy.
War was not our choice. Pearl Harbor was struck while at peace. We Americans can never forgive their treachery. We can never forgive their brutality toward helpless civilians. We can never forget the examples of Nazi culture in Russia. The acts that go beyond even wanton killing and torture. These are not acts of war. These are crimes, cowardly crimes against defenseless people. They are typical of Axis mentality, Axis standards, and Axis ideas. The most vicious instincts of common murderers have been erected into a system of government. The enemy has a deep hatred for things which make us free men and women, a deep contempt for all humanity.
D-Day itself was an effort to drive the Germans from the heartland of Europe, particularly France, and eventually defeat the Germans once and for all. In World War I, the Germans had been defeated, but had not been defeated once and for all, because no Allied troops ever got on German soil. This D-Day was going to change all of that.
H hour approaches. The signal to strike is given.
Adolf Hitler, who ruled Europe, realized that the Allies were going to come one day, and he wasn't quite sure where, but he tried to build an Atlantic wall, which would, similar to the Great Wall of China, which would defend all of Europe against any attack. As the great German general, who Hitler loved, Frederick the Great, said, "He who tries to defend too much defends nothing." This is what really happened. Hitler used 250,000 captured laborers to build a tremendous fortification. It was this fortification that the Allies had to attack.
Amphibious assault bridges the gap between our bases and enemy shores. It takes a lot of logistical preparation. It takes many craft, specially built, tank landing ships, troop transport, infantry barges, ducks.
Believe it or not, that's a 2.5-ton truck. Different kind of body, different shape. It's called the duck for amphibious operation. Ever try floating a truck across water? It needs a whole platoon of men. A big tarpaulin tucked up over the sides, and she's floated across. That is, if there's no wind or waves. But America's fighting a modern war. So it takes the same GI truck, adds a little American ingenuity, and you got the duck. It's still a 2.5, but it's also a motorboat with its propeller, rudder, anchor, bilge pumps, watertight and waterproof, able to cut through almost any kind of surf at a good 6 knots. It's become more and more apparent that our strategy from now on in calls for landings on lots of beaches and in lots of places. Invasion from the sea. And there's been an urgent need for quicker, safer, more efficient ship-to-shore transportation. American production skill has sent the GI truck to sea, out to the big transports that lie offshore, with with cargo for the men on land. With ducks to do the job of getting it ashore, it gets done in a hurry, just as if the transports had been brought up onto the beach and unloaded there. This path from ship to shore was made on the American assembly line. A streamlined hull, the watertight bearings, the quick conversion from water operation to land travel. When the duck is used, it reduces the hazard of exposed and dangerous beachheads, vulnerable from the air. At speeds up to 50 on the straightaway, the new amphibious 2.5 can haul its freight quickly inland to concealment and security. It means invasion made easier and safer. The duck's in full production now back in the war plants at home, and every day more of them show up around the world. Already they've tasted combat in the South Pacific, in North Africa, in Sicily, and thousands more are on the way. Invasion's the order of the day, and American skill is right there to meet its requirements.
The Allies' plan was to attack Germany in 5 different areas. There would be 5 different forces. The major force would be at a place called Omaha Beach. A second force of Americans would be at a place called Utah Beach. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th forces would be at places called Gold, Juno, and Sword. At Juno, this would be mainly a Canadian force, and a Gold and Sword would be a British landing force.
An American Armada, another of the series of great amphibian operations that characterize Allied strategy in the present phase of the war. American soldiers, fresh from the soda fountain, farm, shoe store, the grease pit, college. A citizen army on the move.
This is a picture of you, the average American soldier. Nothing unusual, but there are some things you may not know about yourself that are pretty amazing. For example, you are 5 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier than any knight of King Arthur's Round Table. You know more about maps and compasses than Christopher Columbus. You are a more accurate shot with your rifle than Daniel Boone himself. And with your automatic weapons, you have greater firepower than a whole platoon of Napoleon's finest. And in addition to all this, you know more about making beds than the average American housewife. All in all, you're quite a guy. In fact, you're quite a lot of guys.
What was it like at Omaha Beach? And people that have talked to me have told me that it was chaos. Bullets are flying, planes are shooting, people are dying, people are drowning. It was really a hell and an inferno, particularly in the first hours when the Germans were dug in behind their pillboxes.
They're guys from all over. Texas, Maine, Utah, Oregon. Think what a job it was to get them all here and to head them for where we're going. And that's not all. For every one of us Joes that goes overseas, 7 tons of stuff has to go along. 7 tons.
What went wrong at Omaha despite the American success? What went wrong is that The best laid plans of mice and men go astray when you implement such a big operation. Despite months and months of preparation, when the ships landed at Omaha, only one company, Company A of the 116th Regiment of the 1st Division, landed where they were supposed to. All the others were all over the place. The firepower of the Germans was so great at the beach that in Company A, of the 200 men that landed, only 12 survived. Despite this, the troops were successful. Why were they successful? Were they successful because of Patton and Eisenhower and Bradley? No. They were successful because they were innovative. Something about the American psyche in every war has made them successful because they were innovative. It was the sergeants and the enlisted men who became innovative and who were able to lead the attack. It was not the generals, the majors, and the colonels.
American troops land simultaneously at numerous points along enemy-held coastline. Slug into action. Penetrate inland. Capture airfields. The word is flashed and received. And Allied bomber squadrons immediately begin operations from these fields. Plaster Axis bases.
How successful were the Allies in this attack? Despite this great wall, despite this tremendous feat of trying to have to go up these walls, through these minefields, the Allies were only held back one day at the place called Omaha Beach and 1 hour at all the other places.
While assault troops engage the enemy, engineers prepare the way for heavy equipment, removing landmines, laying mats for wheeled vehicles. Where sandbars blocked the way as at Licata, pontons were assembled to serve as temporary docks. Heavy equipment is needed at Salerno, equally needed in Rendova. All kinds, all places, scores of jeeps, trucks, guns, armored cars, bulldozers. Unloading stores and ammunition takes a lot of manpower.
What did the crusade really mean? What the crusade really meant was that America, which led this crusade D-Day against Germany, was now in Europe forever.
Drowned vehicles, swamp boats, fighting equipment corroded. Material of all kinds litters the beaches. This is the heavy price paid to tide, wind, shoals, and surf.
We have come to the year of decision. The blows struck in 1944 will determine the outcome of the war. We are ready for the test of our strength and of our spirit. The year will be one of hard work and tribulation. For many of us, a year of personal tragedy.
Perhaps this quote depicts what D-Day was all about to these GIs. When you go home and tell our story, don't forget to say, we gave up our tomorrow for your today.
This is our fight. The fight for freedom. Freedom of speech, of worship. Freedom from want and fear. Taxes will keep democracy on the march.